So step 4 in our method is called define future. And in most projects, that's about working out what your to be should be, what you want it to be. Given that for the most part, we're talking about regulatory compliance here, the to be is defined by that regulation. So we're not looking at benchmarking to work out our process performance. We're really making sure that we've understood the regulatory requirements, whether that's the CSRS, IFRS, local statutory requirements. So we use the outcome of step 3, where we have made a baseline to identify then the gap between the baseline, the today position, and where we need to be in order to be compliant with the standards. Those gaps can be in a number of different areas. So let me touch on, first of all, gaps in process. So you may or may not have a process that's good enough to deliver the data that you need. Your data quality may or may not be good enough to deliver what you need. Remember that for the first time, you might be looking at financial grade data quality for non-financial data, often a step that companies need to take.
I'm going to talk first about technology, because obviously, this is an area that's ever evolving. So as a company, we should be jumping on board, and leveraging some of the current technologies, for example, AI, right? So really consider automation to help in your ESG reporting, because having that automation obviously going to help you with having more accurate data, but also being more efficient and scalable. Imagine, if you're a big company, I'm sure you're going to have so much data, your data, your suppliers' data is just going to be massive to manage. Because that you can think about real-time data collection, integration with your suppliers, for example. And then you have also the options of, let's say, automated compliance check. We can track compliance as well, compliance risk across suppliers. Yeah, I think a lot of the focus a lot of companies have right now is on the scope 3, which talks about your supply chain. I think there are automated ESG platforms out there that can help monitor any risk when it comes to your supply chain using satellite data. Also, there are AI-driven tools that can do scenario planning, so they can also help you look at your climate risk planning. The next area that I'm going to touch upon is the gap around competencies. So this is really critical as well. No matter how well your plan, your strategy is, you need people to execute it. So we need to understand what kind of skill set your organization need in the future, or moving towards the future. So we are talking about competency in terms of understanding regulatory changes in compliance, technical and analytical, because that helps with adopting the right technical tools. Also, more importantly, to our topic, the financial analysis capability, because you need to understand what financial risk it will come about, and has the right commercial mindset to, as we talk about opportunities, having the right commercial, let's say, mindset to tap onto potential commercial opportunities.
So we've talked about process and data and technology. And for ESG reporting or CSRD compliance, we're probably talking about processes and data which haven't had the kind of controls that our financial reporting data will have.
We need to have a process and a potential control around all the risks that we already at this point have identified. The same goes with policies. There might be gaps, it's probably likely to be some gaps. We need to see what controls do we have now, and keep in mind, depending on these controls got to be tested, audited, and keep in mind it's a lot more cost effective to test a control-based framework rather than substantive testing if you don't have that framework at hand.
So that's step 4, defining the future and comparing it to your baseline for process and data, for technology, for skills or competencies, and eventually for risk and control.